All right, guys, we are now live for another Thursday night conversations with Commodores. And I'm so pleased to have a fellow Commodore from the Wiregrass from Pike County, Brundidge, Alabama. You guys know number 3, Christopher Nixon. Good to see you, bud.
And hey, everybody, thanks, Nora, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to our conversation for a while now, and it's so good to see your smiling face. And we're gonna kick it back to some old times and some good stuff. But before we do, Chris, catch people up with what's going on with you now. Talk about your where you living and what are you doing, maybe your family, whatever you want to share about what's going on with you currently.
Absolutely. So I am I stayed in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm in the outskirts of Antioch. And I've been here ever since I left Andy. And I have a beautiful 11-year-old son named CJ, Christopher John. He's been my life. He was born shortly after my career at Vanderbilt. So that's been an extended legacy for me. And I couldn't be more pleased with his development and growth. He really is everything I live for, and everything that I try to accomplish has everything to do with it. So that and from a professional standpoint, I work primarily with adjudicated youth as a professional therapist in pursuit of an LPC, licensed professional counselor.
Mhm.
And I've been working toward that for several years now. And just really working to continue to continue further my knowledge base. I'm a lifelong learner. Um,
Chris, let me pause you for just a second. I'm hearing from multiple people. They can't hear you. So maybe if you can turn your sound up, it may help a little bit.
yeah, let me see if this will help. Maybe I can bring this in.
Thank you for doing that. And thank you guys for letting me know. I can hear him just fine, but I don't know about what others may or may not be able to hear. But you're working as a licensed counselor and therapist?
Yes. Let me see if I pull this closer.
Okay.
Let me
Chris,
know if everybody can hear me now better.
yeah, Chris Griffin says you need to use that QB voice.
Yeah. Like 100,000 in the stands.
That's right. That's right. Well, I can hear you just
Absolutely.
fine, bud.
All right. Hopefully they can hear me now, and I don't mind speaking up a little bit. But yeah, what I'm a professional therapist. I've been working on that for several years now. Working towards my LPC, licensed professional counselor, and while also soon to be Dr. Nixon, working on my PhD in education and organizational leadership. I should finish that by January of next year. So I'll
Awesome.
turn 35, Dr. Nixon, and that's a beautiful thing, a beautiful accomplishment for me in terms of my goals and the things that I've set out to do since I left Vandy. And everything's just been aligned. I'm a professional therapist. I started that back in ever since back 2011. I started that track, going to get my master's in clinical mental health counseling, and just been working to elevate that ever since. Working to in communities at risk. I primarily work with at risk youth, adjudicated youth right now, as well as private clientele through my organization, LifeSkills Sports Academy. And I really focus on athletes, developmental athletes, current elite athletes, whether it be collegiate or professional, or former athletes, just helping them to matriculate the world, their life world, and the game of life, and teaching skills and things that I'm learning from not just clinical mental health counseling, but also my research, which is sports related and mental health related. So I've been doing everything I've been doing. Everything I am right now has been a work in progress since the days I left Vandy. And I couldn't be more proud of myself and my development, my growth professionally. I hope
That's
everybody can hear me better now.
Yeah, I think they can, and that just is all such great stuff. But guys, I don't know if you realize this about Chris. He was valedictorian of his high school, comes up to campus to Nashville and ends up, he's a trivia question answer. And the question is, who took over after Jay Cutler behind center? Well, that's Chris Nixon. And then who, along with Larry Smith and some others, then leads Vanderbilt to its first bowl win in over 50 years? That's Chris Nixon. And then quarterbacks a couple of years, graduates, and now he goes from being QB1 and next year going to be PhD doctor. That's awesome. What a story. I'm so proud of you. And that's just such a wonderful accomplishments. And you have a lot to be proud of, Chris. And that smile says it all right there. So thank you for being who you are, bud, and just doing what you're doing. But now I want to take us back. I want to take us back to the Wiregrass. I want to take us back to Pike County. I want you to tell us some of your origin. What was it like in this such a small community? I mean, I know of it. I don't know if others do, but I've been passing through there my entire life. I grew up in Dothan, just an hour south. And share a little bit about your childhood and those big aspirations and dreams that you had back then.
Absolutely. I think everything about my life has been to pursue greatness. From a sense of seeing what's going on around me, noticing everything around me, and desiring to make positive changes, not just for myself, but for a community of people. And I started out in Brundidge, Alabama, small town. I'm an old country boy. Ain't nothing but country in Alabama and in Brundidge, Alabama. So, moved around with my family a little bit in different areas close within the Wiregrass. But always was passionate about Pike County High School, Pike County football, Pike County sports, period. I grew up, very first sport I played was baseball. And I became really pretty good at it. And, but I mean, I grew up playing backyard football and, getting crates and fixing them together and putting them on a board and putting it on a stick and playing basketball. And, one thing about me was I was very competitive growing up. I think I saw a picture of me when I was little. I was very little. My mom had a picture of me when I was a baby. And the one thing that stuck with me all my life, especially throughout my sports career, was one picture where I was sitting there smiling like this at less than 1 year old and had a football just sit cradled up in my arms. And to me, that said something. It said something about, I always use imagery to find my motivation and my path. And that football said a lot to me. It said to me that, I was gonna, for me, just personally, I was gonna do something special with a ball in my hand. And not just that, but that was one of the things I focused on. I think growing up, my mom told me also, big ups to my mom, love you, Mom. She told me, you can't play sports if you can't get your grades. So, with that, that was easy for me. I mean, it wasn't rocket science. It was just 1 + 1 is 2. And, I gave my all with that. And that eventually led me to valedictorian. But the competitive drive in me was I first learned of that when I was probably about 12 years old, really like maybe 8 to 12 years old, playing in the backyard with my cousins, where they always played 2 against 1 because I was the middle child. The oldest would play with the youngest, and so they always played 2 against 1, and I was always that one.
Oh,
And
wow.
they probably didn't beat me, until I probably got about till the oldest one got 15 years old, and he was too big to tackle, they had too many forces going against him. But that literally built my competitive drive, and not only that, but success, it's so easy to continue to replicate once you've done it so long for so
Well,
long.
Chris, it's that byproduct of your drive and your hard work. And mamas can be funny that way about grades. They set the tone pretty early that what's expected of you, or if you want to achieve certain things, you've got to do other things to get there. And shout out to your mom and all moms who've pushed us along the way. And I want to welcome some Commodores who are watching with us. We got OJ Fleming, we got Brandy Jackson Scott, we got Chris Griffin, we got Tyler, we got a whole bunch of folks in there. So Chris, showing you a little bit of love tonight. And of course, we're talking with Chris Nixon. Now, Chris, growing up in the small community that you did, I suspect there wasn't a whole lot to do other than play sports or get in trouble. And I know you played a lot of sports, but I also suspect you stayed out of trouble because of mama and some other influences. And that's what I want to ask you about is childhood influences. Your community, for folks who don't know, all kind of wonderful, accomplished athletes came before Chris in the Brundidge and Pike County and Troy area, professional sports all over the place. But Chris, I don't know if it was a coach, an older player, a sibling. Who were some of your influences and sports related heroes who you tried to emulate?
Absolutely. Well, my number one go-to was Mr. Fred Baxter. He went to the NFL and played ball for a long time. But there was also guys that we had Mr. Football. We had, and I was the second Mr. Football at my school. We had, people was going off to college, Quincy Jackson, and all of those individuals particularly inspired me. But really, to be honest with you, it was the most inspiration that I got was for the guys that were great and never made it. And to me, it said something to how I needed to work my life skills and work and stay out of trouble, and what groups I need to run with, and who not to spend a lot of time with, and just what team people, what type of people I wanted in my social network. And and I saw these guys, and I thought the absolute world of them, but they weren't able to move the needle and take it to another level. And then so I always ask that question of why, like what happened. And I learned, once I learned what it was that got to them, I kind of stayed away from those things.
Yeah.
And just stayed focused on higher goals. My goal was always to just be the very best that I could possibly be in whatever state, whether it be baseball, football, basketball, school, whatever. Like you said, there wasn't a lot going on there. Wasn't a lot of opportunities outside of sports. So I made sports my primary focus, and utilized school as also a primary aspect of my growth.
I'm sure you much more. We all do this. We appreciate those life lessons more as adults when we're looking back over our life and maybe what we want to share with our children or our colleagues or people that we're around. But you were learning those life lessons as a kid growing up. And I bet you could probably name, like I could, half a dozen athletes who may have even been more athletic than yourself, who had bits and pieces of time period where they were just the ultimate superstars in a sport. And for whatever reason, they got off that path that was taking them in that direction. Something pulled them the other way, and they just either never made it out of the neighborhood, or they may not be alive for whatever reason, that their path became dark. But it's always so interesting to me to learn how at such a young age, all of the Commodores who I talk to all have something in common, and that's just this. We pick up pieces of things that we learn along the way to help shape our path. And the ones who can move to the next level and achieve, and then move to the next level and achieve, get to where you are in life. They get to where so many other Commodores who I've had on this program. And that's the commonality that I just love, because sometimes when you don't recognize some of those traits that you see in others that may be in yourself, that's where you kind of get lost a little bit. And I'll stop with that little long soapbox right there. But I want to go back to being such a, this is my term, a big fish in a small pond. We all know Pike County is a small community and a pretty small high school, but you achieved, and what you were able to do, not only athletically, but academically, was seen much further beyond the county of Pike County. And how, getting that recognition, how were you able to deal with that? Because sometimes it can be overwhelming. How did you absorb that? How were you able to take in getting all that recognition? Because when you're Mr. Football in Alabama, that's a big deal. So share with us a little bit about that learning process.
Just, family values. Family values kept me grounded. And just, essentially maintaining a sense of humility and honoring others. Those are the two things that I wanted to do. I wanted to maintain a humble nature, and then just see the greatness in everybody else and pass the baton. Like, there was nothing more special to me than seeing not just me be successful. Yeah, I won Mr. Football, but I had 4 other guys in a very small team go D1 at Pike County, small school. Five guys going D1. And it was, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to pass the torch, pass things to other people so that they could be successful also. And to me, I'm such a team player, and I'm not successful if everybody around me isn't successful. It wasn't anything greater for me than to win a first championship in 15 years at Pike County. It wasn't nothing greater to me than to present to that community a trophy, something that they could stand on. The year before that, we only had 18 players. We almost took it all the way. I had one bad game. It was in the playoffs, third round, and second or third round. And those are the things that, I saw a community of people come together in front of my eyes based off of a ball of pigskin. And I was like, yo, like that, if that can impact the hearts of people, then I'm all for it. Like, what else can I do with it? And it hurt me whenever we didn't win with those 18 players. They called us 18 strong. We had T-shirts. We was on the news. We one of the best teams. We were being 5A schools. We were 3A. And so I knew that it was very important to me to take that to the next level the next year and win a championship. And I gave everything I had to do that, including play defense and lead the team in tackles, which is, if anybody knows me, I do not like hit. So, yeah, I'm not a rock, but definitely.
But what you are,
I wanted to do something special, so I gave everything I could in order to present that to the community.
you not only was that shaping you into being a teammate, which you had been for many years, a good teammate, but also a leader. Now, I want to talk about your recruiting time period. When did any colleges, start showing interest? And then when did you get serious about your decision making and ultimately come to Vanderbilt?
You know what? And that I was a little bit naive. I think I got my first letters probably in the 9th grade. I got my first offer in the 10th grade by Alabama. And then it was, everything else just started pouring in after that. And it was a very special process. I had this huge box of letters just sitting in my room underneath my bed, and I would go through them and just read every single letter and see, who really had interest in me and who really wanted me a part of their program. And it was just exciting. I mean, for a young kid, especially in the 10th grade, to get an offer from the University of Alabama, and then which is, if anybody knows Alabama, state of Alabama, is Roll Tide or War Eagle, and I was all about Roll Tide. So to receive that offer was just monumental for me and my confidence, and it kind of solidified my path in terms of definitely wanting to play in the SEC. I think I whenever I started taking my visits, I think I settled down to 5 schools, and that was a very difficult process. But I think a lot of schools made it easy when I told them I wanted to play quarterback, and that was Alabama offered me as a athlete, and you know, I wasn't necessarily excited about that, but I was honored and I felt privileged no matter what the situation was. And then, so, you know, but making my choice to get to Vanderbilt, that was almost easy because I had a coach by the name of Charlie Fisher, and every letter that he wrote, it had a different tone. It had a different kick to it. It was, go somewhere where you can make a difference. Go somewhere where you can create change and better people. Go somewhere where you can be a part of something special and be one of the first to see us, to help us change this program around. So when he started talking that kind of language, you know, it was hard. It was very difficult for me to sway away from that. And so eventually, you know, out of Louisville, Mississippi State, not Ole Miss, Southern Miss, Alabama, and Vanderbilt, you know, Vanderbilt came very easily to me. And then it was a no-brainer when I looked at who was the starting quarterback for Vanderbilt. And I've always been a strategic guy. So I always saw myself as, if I set my mind to anything, I can get it accomplished. And Jay Cutler had 2 years left when they were, by the time I was a senior. And I wanted to get behind him. I wanted to see what it was like to be around a pro caliber quarterback, because I'm also looking at myself as this might be my opportunity. So it was a no-brainer to select Vanderbilt. I held on to that as long as I could, but overall, I think I knew deep down that would be my choice.
You know, Chris, it sounds like those recruiting letters were issuing you a challenge. And it seems like you recognized that and accepted that challenge when you ultimately committed. Am I reading that right? Was that part of your thought process?
Absolutely. There's nothing better, there's nothing greater than to go somewhere where you can create history. You know, I had already established that and contributed to that in ways just by simply winning the championship at Pike County. And first time in 15 years, being the first kid, and I don't know the statistics, but one of the first kids to be Mr. Football and valedictorian all in the same year. And
I dare say there's not many of you out there.
yeah, absolutely. And just riding that area of confidence and extending it. I wanted to extend it to something special. And I looked at Vanderbilt's record, and I looked at their track record and the history, and I realized like this would be the place that I could make the most out of this opportunity. And I've always wanted to be considered one of the best, and whatever I did, and I thought that would, when you create major change for something and you create history, establish history in the organization and in the community, people remember you, and that's what I wanted to see happen.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you from my perspective, I always look each year to see where all of the new signees are from. And I particularly pay attention, of course, to the guys from Alabama. But when I saw Pike County, that put a big smile on my face, because you were also a quarterback and a valedictorian. It's like, this guy's got it going on. Now, we've all heard, and some of you who are watching know this, that Cutler has we'll call it a prickly approach of the people he doesn't know. When did you first come in contact? Did you meet him on your recruiting visit, or was it not until you got to school? What kind of reception did you get from him? Those kind of things.
Absolutely. I met him on the visit. Definitely met him on the visit. He was welcoming. He played his role in terms of getting me there. He showed acceptance. He talked to me openly, and you know, that was special to me, because essentially I knew that was going to be the person that I was going to learn to elevate my skill set.
Yeah.
And, you know, coming from Pike County, I really didn't have a lot of quarterback skills. I wasn't like naturally,
right.
You know what I mean, naturally that type of player. However, I was self-taught, and I watched a lot of people,
Mhm.
in order just to learn the position and learn
Who,
how to
who
play.
are your,
Right?
who are your influences? Who did you try to pattern after? What quarterbacks?
Brody Croyle. Brody Croyle of Alabama. He had one of the smoothest releases that I had seen in
Yeah.
a long time. He had a tight spiral, and I could get it to receivers, and I can get it there hard. But I wanted to replicate that spiral, so I watched him all the time growing up
Yeah, he
until
did okay for
until
himself in Alabama, so he would be a good one to follow. That's for sure.
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Chris, you
Um,
come
but
up
yeah,
to campus. When did you come up to campus after graduation? Did you come during that summer, or did you come in the fall with the, or in August with the freshmen? When was that for you?
yeah, I came up that summer. Yep,
Hmm.
I came up that summer. I remember staying in a house with a few of the fellas,
Hmm.
Jay Cutler included, Stephen Bright. Did some 7-on-7s with some teams while we were in the summer, and just really just got acclimated to the environment and the team system, and kind of got ahead of the game, or at least tried to get ahead of the game a little bit. So yeah, I came up that summer.
And your head coach was Bobby Johnson the whole time you were in school. And
Yes, sir.
who was your position coach?
Jimmy Kaiser. Whole
Mhm.
time I was in school as well. Yes.
This is how old I am, Chris. When we were watching film in the quarterback room with Coach Christophel, who's now with Tampa Bay, he's the tight ends coach with the Buccaneers, and Coach Watson Brown, my head coach. We were still using the old, I don't know if it was 16 or 8 millimeter tapes, and we were having, believe it or not, to splice the film together. I know that that dates me. I get that. I get it. That was part of the freshman hazing. You had to figure that out because nobody else, that's for you. What kind of similar freshman type treatment did they give you when you were coming up?
Um, you know what? They did something, and I do not remember exactly what it was, but that was the first time I viewed any form. It wasn't really a hazing. Like I think, you know, I don't recall what it was. I just remember the guys did something. They had it planned for every freshman. I think it was like ceremonial because the great thing about our team was that we didn't do hazing. Bobby Joe didn't allow that in any regard. But primarily, what they did was I think there was some freshman ceremony where we would be in McGugan and we
Mhm.
have to do maybe a skit or something like that in
I
front of
got
all of the team, and that was the extent of our embarrassment, our
you.
introduction, so to speak, to
Mhm.
Vanderbilt football. So
Well, any of you guys who are watching, and we've added Billy Smith, who was a beloved Keystone cop who took the equipment on the trips. He's watching. Byron King is with us. Gary Veach, Kenny Cole. We got a bunch of other Commodores who've joined us, and of course, I'm chatting with Chris Nixon, and we're in his freshman year. He's playing behind Cutler, starting to learn a little bit. Chris says, oh, that's funny. Plenty of fruits and veggies available during those skits. That's funny. That's funny.
that's right, Chris.
Bill. Well, the team had some success in the previous couple of years before you joined the program and your class joined the program. And let's talk about some of the expectation levels because it was during that time period, they had success against UT. And I'm sure that I'm not sure. I'm asking, I guess I should put it this way. What was your level of expectation to be able to get on the field your freshman year?
Well, I definitely wanted the red shirt, my red shirt freshman year. After that, it was I knew I was gonna play. I knew I was gonna play. It was a matter of what coaches were gonna want me to do
Mhm.
to help the team. And a lot of people don't know this, but my first time on the field, I was at wide receiver,
Mhm.
and Jay, ironically, and he threw the ball. He threw it to me, and I didn't understand. It was actually against MTSU. We lost that game. We shouldn't have, but that was my first time actually getting some real playing time on the field, and so it was just about. I remember coaches came and asked me if I wanted to return kicks, return punts, and at that time, you know, I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I impressed people too much at on a certain level, because my goal was to be a quarterback and be one of the best in the SEC. And so that was interesting. It was interesting. That was my first time on the field. I was at wide receiver, and I got a little playing time with that. And then shortly after that, they put me in at quarterback and gave me some feels through some games that I felt comfortable. And that was really cool for the coaching staff to kind of prepare me for my moment.
Sure it was.
To take over the team.
And it probably was less stressful playing, getting your first collegiate experience playing a wide receiver or whatever the position was. I know you wanted to be a quarterback, but obviously there was a future all-pro quarterback in the huddle at that time, but no better place to learn some of, you know, just being in that huddle. I'm sure you absorbed a lot of mannerisms and how to carry yourself on a collegiate level. But what was it like, Chris, in Pike County, the average fans, you know, you might have been playing in front of 1,000, 2,000 in a given night, all the way up to the state game. I'm sure there was 10, 15, 20,000. But now you're in the SEC and you're playing the Floridas and the Georgias of the world. And those stadiums are filled a little bit more than they were, you know, when you were playing in high school. Did you ever get butterflies? Did that even bother you? Did you get nervous? Did you throw up? How did you react to pregame? Because everyone has their own rituals, their own way of dealing with that pregame nervousness.
Mm-hmm. I studied one of the best at showing no weakness, Jay Cutler. Mm-hmm. I studied what he did before pre-games. I studied how he did it, and I learned from it. And so the butterflies were still there, but I carried this pleasant narcissism, so to speak, and that allowed me to stay focused on the task at hand. And so, you know, I'm a spiritual person, so I think I incorporated a lot of prayer, meditative efforts before the game, just recalling the playbook, focusing on adjustments, play calls, those things. And that kind of kept my mind busy, and that settled my emotions and helped me stay ready.
And in your signing class, your freshman year, were there any other Alabama guys? Were there guys from the South, or were they from all over the place?
I think they were primarily all over the place. I think we had a couple of guys. I don't recall exactly. I think we had I had Rashard Langford from Alabama.
Oh yeah,
Athens, and we were roommates freshman year. And
that was going to be my next question. Who was your roommate?
Yeah,
and where did you guys?
My roommate.
Where did y'all live?
We were initially in Towers. Yep, we were in Towers. I stayed in Bernard. I mean, what is it, Bernard? Yeah, Bernard. Like during the initial phase, and then moved in shortly after camp into Towers.
Well, Chris, we back in my day, I think during most of the 80s and maybe even into the 90s, the freshman football players all lived with the other students in the Branscombe Quadrangle. And I lived in Lupton freshman year, and then we all transitioned over to the Towers for the next 2 to 3 years, and some guys moved off campus. So I'm sure they've changed that around over the years. But I always like to find out, where on campus or off campus did you live?
You know, you might be right. The one that I lived in was, it may not have been Towers. It was a tall building, not the Carmichael Towers. It might have been Branscombe, I believe that might have been it, exactly, because that was designated. Whatever it was designated for the freshman class students. Yeah, and Chris,
that's right across the street from Memorial Gymnasium.
That's correct. That's correct. Yep. So my bad. That's exactly correct.
Well, Chris, let's keep moving. I want to go back into your freshman year. We go through the season. You get some playing time. Let's move into the spring. And now I suspect you've got that mentality that that position, quarterback, is mine, and I'm going to go compete for that position. How many other guys were on the roster? Who were you competing with at that time for quarterback?
I know Mackenzie Adams was there. Richard Kovacek. I
Mhm.
think they brought him in from Arizona.
Mhm.
So those were the primary two quarterbacks that was on the roster that I had to compete with for the starting position.
Let's talk about playing for Bobby Johnson. Some of the guys have played for Coach Woody, Coach Dowhauer, DiNardo, Watson Brown, you name it. And the personalities it's a whole mixture of different personalities, including the guys who played for Franklin and the current guys playing for Coach Mason. What was it like learning and being coached by Coach Johnson?
Coach Johnson, if I can say anything about Coach Johnson in terms of what I got from him as an athlete, as a football player, was his focus on integrity. He was all about integrity. I think there was a lot of talk about, news reporters saying that he never curses, and we heard him curse a few times, and it was no big deal to us. Matter of fact, I kind of like a coach that can get gritty with you sometimes. But he maintained a high level of integrity in the way, and he was himself. And as quiet as he was, he could also get a little gritty sometimes when he felt that the need to actually display that. So definitely a man of integrity, a man of heart, and cared. I think he was very passionate about his position in the lives of our team, lives of his players, and kind of motivated us on that level to always just really do the right thing.
Mhm. Well, your second year on campus, or excuse me, your second season, you put up some mighty fine numbers, and I want to talk about that mindset going into your sophomore year, your second year on campus, and you really, I'd never like to say that you kind of came out of nowhere, but for those who don't follow the program, you were a real surprise to a lot of people and a lot of teams, because when you look at your numbers, those are some serious numbers right there. And maybe some of that came pretty naturally to you, I'm sure, but I know there was a lot of hard work learning defenses and learning how to command the offense, but you didn't take very long to pick it up, is my point. What was it about that fall camp going into that season? What are some things that you recall that just really are some strong memories from that time period?
It was all about work ethic, to be honest. If I could say anything that I recall for real in terms of preparation for that season,
Mhm.
it was the year before. I remember one time being it was a awards night, and I got red shirt player of the year, and that could be considered special. At least it was special to me in terms of knowing that I made significance. I had significance on the team, and I remember I was outside one night. It was pouring down, raining, and I was at the practice field, and I didn't know anybody was watching me. That wasn't my focus. I had built the work ethic from Pike County that I knew that made me successful and led to a lot of opportunities for me. So it would be easy for me to go out late at night in the rain, storming, and throw footballs in buckets and run and go get them, practice juke moves, hit the sideline, just do whatever it took to make sure that I was elevating my skill set. And a coach just happened to see me out there. One of the assistants saw me out there, and I didn't know he saw me, but at the award ceremony, he let everybody know. And to me, it was that was the moment where I knew that I had made an impression on individuals with my work ethic, and that's what drove me into my success my sophomore year. It was just not. It was that, and being able to really study Jay Cutler's, and they had the system that I ran was commensurate to the similar to the same system that Jay Cutler had run. So I felt very comfortable in that offense, and it was spread. So I felt like I was spreading the field a little bit, and I could run or throw,
Yeah.
and those made very good options for a dual threat quarterback. And so it was easy to answer your question. It was an easy transition onto the field and taking over the starting position and seeing some success. I wasn't as successful as I would have liked to have been, but at the end of the day, like I made my mark, and I made a lot of accomplishments. So I was very pleased with that, and I was looking forward to the next season.
Chris, you also had the unique experiences of playing in that wide receiver or the flanker position when Cutler was quarterbacking. So you probably, from that experience, I would think you had an additional perspective, I guess, for the position at quarterback. And usually I don't spend a lot of time talking about individual games and those types of things. So what I want to ask you though is from that season, I've heard, gosh, so many guys have said, I remember the wins, I remember the losses. Of course, you remember the losses, but what I really remember is in the huddle or in the locker room or goofing with the guys on the bus or the hard work in the locker room. I mean, in the weight room. So I want to ask you a little bit of your perspective, your memories. What puts a smile on your face from that time period? Maybe it's a party at off campus you went to. You guys used to hang at a certain place. So I want you to take us back to that time period and put us somewhere on campus, someplace that really, these are some memories that really you hang that really stay with you.
Absolutely. Ironically, what I remember the most is the huddle conversations. It was something I used to say all the time. Let's put the women and kids to bed so we can go look at for dinner. And those type of things. People goofing off in the huddle, saying silly things. Guys, just really just nagging each other. Those are the things that I remember and hold dear to me because the off-field stuff was beautiful. It really was. But to be in the battle in the trenches and have jokes thrown around to ease people's minds and give them more comfort, that's what I remember the most about, in terms of camaraderie and just being with the fellas, like just taking it easy and doing and honoring each other, no matter what the score is on the board, and talking about what we're going to do and how we're going to get it accomplished. So those are the things that I remember the most.
Well, Chris, I suspect you remember what I'm about to ask you as well. We're inside the huddle. You're about to call a play. Who's to your left? Who's to your right? Who are you looking at in the huddle right in front of you?
Ooh, depends on what year. But the people I remember the most are George Smith, Earl Bennett, Sean Walker, DJ Moore at times, Bradley Beerling, my center. I had another center I loved, Hamilton. The lineman, Eames. Just all those guys. I had Jeff Jennings behind me. In this huddle on the side of me. Jeff Jennings, Casey Jackson, Garrison. It was a lot of guys, man. A lot of guys that I remember.
I knew that once they started coming out, they just rolled off your tongue.
Yeah.
Those are the guys you went to battle with. Those are the guys who had your back and you had their back. And frankly, I think that's one of the beautiful things about sports. The scoreboard can be good or bad at the end of the day, but if you know you've given it your all and you know that you've given it not just for you, of course, but for those who are on the battlefield with you, And I realize that sounds cliche-ish, but it's so true. It really is. And you could probably call most of those guys on the phone today, having not talked to them in years. You'd pick right back up on some funny story or something, a nickname. You could name a place that maybe where you guys used to go eat or hang out and those kind of things. And that what I think are some of the greatest memories about playing college football.
Yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
do you have similar memories, similar thoughts about those things?
Absolutely, absolutely. It all comes rushing back. Those guys had a lot more jokes than me. Their sarcasm was on another level. But just hanging out on Demumbrium, going downtown, enjoying ourselves. A lot of guys like myself were meditative,
Mhm.
very prayerful individuals. So we spent a lot of time at Centennial Park reading together, doing things together, spending quality time.
Mhm.
Curtis Gatewood and Deuce, my man Deuce. Just a lot of really good guys. Otis Washington, rest his soul. Like it was just a lot of guys, man. Where we had some very intimate moments, and um, with our team chaplain, and just spending time with each other. And those are the things that you always remember and carry with you, no matter where you are. So
Well, Chris,
that's absolutely correct.
guys, I'm talking with Chris Nixon, and we're going deep into some memories here. We're sharing some good stories, but I want to take you to the weeks leading up to the bowl game. And guys, this is the '08 Music City Bowl against Boston College. It's no secret now. Everybody knows that we won the game 16-14. You had a very critical run. I think it was a 30-plus yard run in that game. It was a defense and punt oriented game. Our only touchdown was recovered, I think, in the end zone or run back shortly. And the punter was the MVP for us. From my perspective, and I don't know how many former players, there had to have been a couple hundred former players at that game. It was so crowded. I signed up and we tried to go to one of the pep rally meal things that were near the stadium. We couldn't even get in. It was just so crowded because everybody was so happy to be part of that. And I was so proud to be in the stands. It was mighty cold, but we were not going anywhere. So I want you to take us inside the team in those days and weeks leading up to the bowl. Take us to the last game or two of the year, and then what was it like knowing that you guys when you got that bowl invitation?
Absolutely. We were on a high after beating Kentucky and getting that game 6. We went 0-5. I mean 5-0. Excuse me. 5-0 for the first 5 games of the season. Got a lot of hype, national hype. And then I think we lost the next 4. We were wondering. I think everybody around us. I felt like the team knew we were going to get the 6, but everybody around us was wondering if this was going to be something, just a bluff. And what we did was we really focused on winning that game 6, and then once we beat Kentucky and went to Tennessee and Wake Forest, and we had to face so much adversity on the offensive end. So all year long, just so much adversity on offensively. Our defense just held it down, supported the team throughout the entire year. So we knew that coming into Boston College, we knew that we could handle that level, that type of team. All credit to them, but there wasn't too many doubts in the room that
Mhm.
we weren't going to win that game. It was just a matter of how, and I think the coaches did an excellent job of making solid decisions, considering all the adversity that we were under and had went through. I was facing injuries, continued to separate my shoulder, had a concussion. Mac was getting beat up pretty bad. And we had the freshman by the name of Larry Smith, who stepped in and started that game and finished it strong. He
And
really
I think
stepped up and did a great job.
wasn't that his first start?
That was his first start.
Mhm.
First start in a very big time situation.
Yeah.
And all we could do was be supportive, really be supportive and give him all the tools to be successful and
Mhm.
just be unselfish and really promote his well-being, his growth. And he did an excellent job stepping into the game and just holding it down for the team. And defense
Yeah.
did what they had done all year, and
Yeah.
it led to a win. So
All I'm going to say is another quarterback from the state of Alabama making contributions for the Commodores. But before that, do you remember the announcement for the bowl? Were you guys all pulled together? How did that, do you remember coming together and the coach, y'all learning about that?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That was like, we were wondering which one we're gonna go to. I don't think anybody wanted to stay in Nashville for that one. But that's eventually what happened. They pulled us together and they sold us with Gaylord. They really did. They sold us with Gaylord, just having a good time, around in the city, but a different type of experience. And a lot of us, we didn't know what bowl games looked like, what the whole process looked like. I had people who actually other teammates who played in bowl games or whatnot, so they had told me some of the things, but I had never experienced it for myself. So we were excited to be there, be in a bowl game. Period. We just didn't want to be in Nashville.
Yes. For all of us who never got to play in the game, that was a very proud day for all of the former players, and that turned out to be a pretty good win. So, Chris, after your eligibility was up and you graduate, I know you still had some aspirations to keep playing. You played in the CFL for a bit, and what was that experience like? Because that's a long way from home. It's cold. It's a different brand of football, some different rules. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. When I left Vandy, my shoulder hadn't completely healed yet, but I told myself I'm not done until I'm done, until somebody tells me I'm done. And that's really what my goal was in Canada, was to just continue to elevate, continue to strive for my own level of greatness. And it was a very unique experience. I got to see some beautiful, beautiful things, and some beautiful people, some amazing athletes. Anthony Calvillo, one of the best quarterbacks in Canadian football history, if not the best. Just the way he threw a football, it elevated my mind all the way to a whole nother level. I thought I saw Brody Croyle be great. I thought I saw Jay Cutler eye to eye. I thought I saw Tim Tebow. I saw Chris Leak. I saw all these different quarterbacks I saw play with my own eyes. And then I see Anthony Calvillo, who looks like an average Joe, but never. I mean, anywhere he wanted to put a football, it was right there, and it was under distress. It didn't matter. He was just that good. And so to see that, like, it really blew my mind. But also then I grew up. Well, I had an opportunity to play with somebody very special to me, somebody I watched when I was in high school, Adrian McPherson at Florida State. I watched him play. He was there, and I watched him be the #2 quarterback. And then I got to be the teammates with somebody that I thought I was going to beat in '06, Chris Leak. They won a national championship that year, but I was hoping we were going to knock him off before they got there. I had a really good game that game, but so I got to be teammates with Chris Leak, and that was special to see him, his level of integrity, see him on a personal level. It was just an amazing experience for me. Yes, it was cold, but Canada was a beautiful place, and coming from small town Alabama, just being able to go to go up in that country and see how they do things. It was very special, and it kind of gave me the drive to be a traveler, a lifelong traveler.
I was going to say a very cool experience at a great time in your life. And guys, if you haven't seen those other ball players play in Canada, go find them on YouTube. It's going to blow you away. Some special athletes. But Chris, we've got just a couple more minutes, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. But I want to talk about your book, which is over your shoulder, Trauma versus Self. So tell us a little bit about that book. What does that mean? What's it about?
Absolutely. So I wrote Trauma versus Self to empower individuals, people, to be not only their best self, but to work through intense levels of trauma. And what it does is it takes it out the eyes of just educational stuff, but gives you a story. So it's a play on words, and it's a play on experiences, in particular my experiences as an athlete. So essentially, the book is about a football player who's went through a lot of struggles and had to work those things out through narrative and through a narrative format. And so I explain my story from a narrative perspective. Not everything about me, but I do give some level of insights into my thought process. And then I add a very significant spiritual element to it, because spirituality is it's a holistic component to it creates the holism to the person, and so I give that vibe in the book, so that individuals can not only address their psychological issues, emotional issues, any physical issues that they may have experienced, but also their spiritual self. So that's what self stands for, and that's what it is. It's the authenticity and the rawness in who you are, helping you to understand more about who you are. And if you haven't decided to learn that about yourself, it gives you food for thought. So the book was essentially designed just to elevate people into their best selves, especially those who went through intense levels of traumatization.
Well, Chris, you got my attention right there with that description. Where do you get a copy of the book? Where can people?
Anywhere online, Amazon, Kindle. You can get it pretty much anywhere that books are sold. So just go online and check it out anytime.
Well, my friend, thank you so much for your time tonight, for sharing your story. I could talk with you for the next couple of hours, but as we do, we try to limit these to about an hour. You need to get in the comment section after we get finished. You got all kind of love in there, folks trying to say hello and share a minute. But Chris, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I hope when this pandemic is over, we can break bread in person sometime soon.
That would be absolutely nice. Listen, before you go, I just want to say thank you. This is my first time really delving deep into my history and going back into thinking about those things. And, it just brings everything full circle for you. I really do truly believe that we have to reflect on our experiences in order to be whole in ourselves and live the life that we're destined to live. And you did that for me. So I want to say personally, thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. It's my pleasure. And guys, as we do every Thursday night, conversations with Commodores, and we've got them lined up for the next several weeks. The next week, we've got William Brown, who's a former teammate of mine. He's down in Texas, and he's got a wonderful story to share. He says, "Oh, what a great fella," as all these guys are, Chris, and so many. But this is what makes it so enjoyable for me, just creating this. I'll call it an oral history of Vanderbilt football over the last so many years. But guys, continue to be safe, continue to be patient, and always, always anchor down.